Hello, I'm Kathleen Petticord. Welcome to the Retired Overseas podcast. Today I'm speaking with nurse practitioner Kelly DeMelli. Kelly has reinvented her life in Cayo, Belize. She is not quite retired, but living her dream life while still practicing telemedicine. Welcome, Kelly. Thank you very much for taking time to speak with us today. You have a great story and you have retired to one of my favorite places in the world. I know Cayo pretty well. I know Carmelita well. We've been friends with Phil Hahn, the developer behind Carmelita, for about 25 years or more. So I'm very excited to hear from a full-time resident of Carmelita now that it is really, we've watched it since it was just an idea in Phil's imagination, and now that it is coming of age. But before we get to all of that and talk about how your life there in Carmelita, in Cayo, I'm wondering if we can take a step back and help everyone understand or let everyone know, when did this idea first occur to you? When did you first have the thought, I'm going to retire outside the United States?
I guess, it was pretty sudden, honestly. I'd probably say like maybe 2021, 22, when I was down in Fort Myers taking care of my father-in-law when he broke his leg. I had a lot of years to retire. I was only like maybe 58, 57 at the time, but I just knew and wanted to go and retire somewhere else. And I started looking at different, countries, and I kind of wanted Central America because it was close to Florida, where my daughter and two grandsons live. But it was early. It was just all kind of a sudden, thing. And getting down here was even more sudden when I finally dropped the ball and said, I'm going.
So one of the big questions has to do with residency. Whether you want to be able to stay in your new home country full time, or if you're okay, if you intend to come and go, or maybe only relocate, retire part time. But if you want to be there full time without any worry about overstaying your tourist visa, et cetera, then you need to choose a residency program. And in Belize, there are a couple of options. So can you tell us about how you processed all of that and what you decided to do in the end for your residency?
Yes, there's a QRP residency, which is what I went for, just based on my age. And I needed to be able to come and go back and forth to the States at my leisure. And, if you apply for residency, you're kind of in that first year that you apply, you're kind of locked here for a full year. You only have 2 weeks out of the whole year that you can leave for any reason to do that. Because job, I do have to go to the States that I work out of and, see some of my patients. And that requires me to leave, more often than not. And so I could not, even think about, doing that program. So I went to QRP, and, there's pros and cons to both, but getting your passport stamped every month or every, 2 months to extend a visa, the cost of that is, it's kind of like paying rent. You're paying for what? You're paying to stay. So the QRP program is like, I'm a resident, but I can come and go as I please, and I don't have to worry about getting a stamp on my passport. Their requirement is, to deposit money into their banks.
Exactly. So to qualify for the QRP, the Qualified Retiree Program, you need to show a minimum income of, I believe it's $2,000 US dollars.
$2,000 US per month. Or you can do it all in one lump sum, or you can do it, you don't have to do it monthly. You can do it, quarterly, or, semi-annually, or you can do it in one lump sum. But,
okay, and that's a big advantage because not every country allows that flexibility. But you can simply deposit 24,000 US dollars in your Belize bank account, and that qualifies you for the year. And then that's an annual requirement.
And it's only $50 per year to renew.
Okay.
unless you don't get a card, which I haven't received a card for 2 years. So last year I didn't pay anything to renew. So it's kind of one of the stipulations. If they don't give you a card, you get free renewal.
So, and then there are no restrictions on your coming and going, no requirement for
No
in-country
restrictions
time.
at all. You can come and go as you want. And if you don't get a card, you get a letter. They just give you a, QRP letter that says, she's a QRP member and, when it expires and, all of that. So, but yeah, that was the big factor for me using that method, but also bringing stuff down. There's no taxes, duty, import fees.
That's great. As a QRP retiree, you have duty exemptions on bringing in your household.
On everything. Yeah, no taxes, duties, import fees at all. It's 100%.
Okay, so lots more of those kinds of, as I put them in the broad category of administrative issues and to-dos that you need to address. And for me, that's kind of the least fun part of the whole thing. Those things have to be addressed, and each is a process, and you want help and guidance, and we're going to talk about a lot more of those things with you to get your feedback on your experience and the wisdom you can share now. But before we dive too deep into all the administration, let's talk about the fun part of it. The fun part of it is you're living in Belize now. You're in Cayo, Belize. So what does your life in Cayo, Belize look like? What is your life now? And I guess maybe to cut to the chase, is your life in Cayo what you expected it to be, as great as you expected? Are you disappointed, or how is it playing out?
No, it is. It is exactly, how I, envisioned it. I wanted to go someplace that was, just, quiet and, no, noise pollution, air pollution, light pollution, anything like that. It's very slow pace, very low key. Just, you get up in the morning and, you just go about your day, and, it's just, I can't, it's just amazing. It's just so relaxed. I have never been so relaxed and like de-stressed in my entire life. And I'm still working, but I'm still working pretty much full time, but it's not like I'm working.
You made the move on your own as a single woman with your dog, Baxter. And did that present any specific challenges? I know we hear every day from women who say, this is all great. This sounds like, it could be my dream come true to retire somewhere where my retirement nest egg will go much further, where I can shape the life I want, reinvent myself. And all of that is very possible, as you're experiencing. But I'm a woman on my own in my 50s or my 60s or my 70s. Could I really do this? Is that realistic?
It is realistic. It's not as difficult as, what people make it out to be. It depends on like how much stuff do you want to bring down? Most people, if they have a vehicle, they'll just pack it to the brim, hire someone to drive it through, and come down with just the bare minimum. And just start over. They'll build, a small cottage or bungalow, something small. They downsize because obviously, and that's what I did. My house seems big, but it's a lot more outdoor space because the way they do square footage here is they include outside space. So
right, no, exactly. Well, were you nervous as a woman on your own? Were you scared to make this move on your own?
I really wasn't. I just knew in my head that this is what I wanted to do, and I just went for it. And it was just like, I did my research. I did, lots and lots of research before I ultimately, made the final decision. But, I had everything, all my ducks in a row. It was just like, I knew I was going to make the move. I hired a consultant, Belizean consultant, who helped me through the whole process and from start to finish, and step by step, this is what you need, blah, blah, blah. And I got all those documents to her. So, I had a bank account ready for me when I got here. I had a cottage to rent when I got here. I purchased a container, 20-foot container in the States with packed it with everything that I was going to need. And it stayed in that container until my house was finished. And that was it. I mean, it was so easy.
So what is your thinking at this point, now that you've been living in Carmelita for a little more than a year, I think a year and a few months? What do you think about self-sufficient living? Has it been challenging in any way?
I love it because I don't have to pay a water bill. I don't have to pay an electric bill. I don't have to pay, a mortgage. The downside is that if it rains for more than, a couple days, you're going to run out of solar. So you're going to run out of solar power at some point. Some people have generators. I chose not to buy a big generator. But I did buy a small portable battery backup. It's used, a lot of people will use it for camping and stuff, but.
Has the internet been able to support your virtual working?
Yes, it has not been a problem at all. The elevation of my house is a big, big factor because I'm up high and I don't have any obstacles in my way of the towers. So I have, no issues unless the internet service, power happens to go down, then it is a problem. But they have, several internet providers down here. So you're not limited, like I said, I've had no, issues. Every once in a while, the internet will act up and I'll be like, and I'll chat the patient. I'm like, I'm having internet problems. I have to reboot. Give me a minute. I'll be right there.
Right. So you mentioned that one of the pluses you found of living this lifestyle is, you have no electric bill, you have no water bill, for example. So I'm wondering, what is your budget for living there in Carmelita? I think that you moved for a more affordable cost of living, as so many retirees are looking to do right now. And so how are you finding that playing out? Is your cost of living reduced from what it was in Tampa?
Oh, big time. I would probably say with food and, stuff that I might want from Amazon or something like that. But you can live so comfortably on like $1,500 US a month. Easy. And maybe even less because, 1,500 US is 3,000 Belize. So I don't think I even spend that. I think maybe the most I spend is maybe less than 1,000 a month, Belize.
Okay, great. So who do you think would be a good candidate to make a move to Belize and maybe specifically to Carmelita? But first, retiring overseas isn't for everyone. You need an open mind, you need a good sense of humor, you need to be very self-reliant, a positive attitude. And then beyond that, of course, every country isn't for everyone. Belize is very quirky. I'm a big fan of Belize. It's one of my favorite places, but it wouldn't be for everyone. Not everyone is looking to live that simple of a lifestyle, that kind of back to basics lifestyle that I think Belize offers. So who do you think is a good candidate for someone to choose Belize?
Think we're seeing a lot more younger people, because they're coming down because they can work remote, and so,
right.
But I think that, a good candidate would be one that is just, wanting to just get away from the craziness of, traffic and noise and all of that. And, live a simpler life, live a quieter, more simpler life. I mean, you can still have your toys or, your things that you're used to in the States. It's just, you don't bring as much, you just, really downsize, and it's just more of a simpler, back to the older days, where you grow your own food and, you gather together, for Thanksgiving dinner, the whole community gets together, makes, a dish, and we all share. And, it's those are the type of people, that are just ready to get away and just live a much quieter, simpler life.
Okay, that's a great way to frame the experience of Belize, and I would agree completely. Belize really has so much to offer in today's world, maybe more than ever. This opportunity for escaping from the chaos of our time, as I think it might seem to a lot of people. So you went from initial idea and research to new life in a very, very short time frame, in the course of 3 years or less.
Very short. Yeah, very short. It was probably maybe a year that
wow.
I
okay.
start from the.
Well, congratulations. And I'm very glad to see and hear you have no regrets. You have built a beautiful, wonderful new life for yourself. So again, congratulations. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. We're out of time now, so we're going to wrap up. Kelly, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening in and for participating today. I will be back again next month with another guest to share another real life story of someone who has reinvented their life and is retired overseas. Until then, take care, and thank you, everyone.